Good day to you, Mom. This is Marimar Oclida, and I'm going to discuss now the chapter 14 of the subject Legal Aspects in Tourism and Hospitality. It was entitled Insurance Law. So, before we dig into the topic, we have here our learning objectives. First is to enumerate items that can be insured by a tourism establishment, and second is to identify the rationale behind the concept of insurance, and third is to explain the different kinds of insurance, and lastly is to identify the advantages and disadvantages of having insurance. So, moving on, insurance is very useful for companies engaged in the tourism industry because there are many kinds of risk in enterprises where investments oftentimes is quite substantial. So, by way of example, an employer may subscribe to a group insurance of his employees as part of his employee benefit program. Companies utilizing building structures for the operation of their hotels, restaurants, and other tourism related establishments may think of investing in property insurance against fire or earthquake to protect their investments. Lastly, an investment in marine insurance, the usu- um, the usual practice among companies engaged in the transportation of cargoes at sea, may also be worth looking at. So, insurance contracts are governed by the insurance law, Presidential Decree 612, which instituted the insurance code, now referred to as Presidential Decree 1460. So, in case of the latter's deficiency, the provisions of the Civil Code of the Philippines govern. So, in their definition and concept, the law in the section 2 stated that a contract of insurance is an agreement whereby one undertakes for a consideration to indemnify another against loss, damages, or liability arising from an unknown or contingent event. So, it means the essential elements of an insurance contract are the insurable interest, existence of risk, assumption of such risk by the insurer, and fourth is said assumption being part of a general scheme to distribute actual losses among those bearing similar risk, and last is the payment of premium. So the characteristics of an insurance contract are: first is aleatory. It is an aleatory contract is one where the obligations depend upon the occurrence of an uncertain event, as in the case of fire insurance, or one certain to happen but at an indeterminate time, like for example, death in life insurance. Second is the contract of indemnity. There is an exchange of value for value, particularly in property insurance. Third is the onerous. There is a valuable consideration given, payment of premium. Then, fourth is the bilateral. From the word bi, it means both parties are bound to do something. And last is the formal. It is as to form, a policy is required to be issued and the premium must be paid. So these are the parties in an insurance contract. First is the insurer. It is a person, partnership, association, or corporation duly authorized to transact an insurance business. So insurer ka ng mga insurance businesses or mga establishments, or it is either partnership or a corporation. Second is the insured. It is a person with an insurable interest who stands to benefit from a policy of insurance. In this strict sense, the insured party is the owner or purchase of the policy, even though benefit of the insurance may accrue to someone else. And third is the beneficiary. It is a person designated by the terms of the policy to receive the proceeds of the insurance policy upon the happenings of the event insured against. So it is the person named in an insurance policy as the one to receive proceeds or benefits accruing thereunder. So insurance contracts may refer to the following. First is life insurance. It is an insurance in human lives and insurance appertaining thereto or connected therewith. Next is the fire insurance. It includes loss by fire, lightning, windstorm, tornado, or earthquake, and another allied risk, when such risks are covered by extension to fire insurance policies or under separate policies. Next is the marine insurance. It is a contract whereby one for a consideration agrees to indemnify another for the loss or damage in a certain interest subject to marine risk by certain perils of the sea or specified casualties during a voyage or fixed period. And last is the personal accident insurance. It is an insurance which provides pecuniary compensation for expenses or losses of income brought about by death or bodily injury arising from violent, external, visible, and accidental means. So, an insurance contract is considered a contract of adhesion in which almost all the provisions have been drafted only by one party, usually the insurance company. So the only participation of the other party is the signing of his signature of or his adhesion. In this regard, such contracts are to be construed liberally in favor of the insured and strictly against the insurer in resolving all ambiguities against the latter. So, next is the law on insurable interest. So, the law in the section 10 stated that every person has an insurable interest in the life and health and of any person of whom he depends wholly or in part for education or support, or in whom he has pecuniary interest, of any persons under a legal obligation to him for the payment of money or respecting property services of which death or illness might delay or prevent the performance. And in the section 13, every interest in property, whether real or personal, or any relation thereto, or liability in respect thereof, of such nature that a contemplated peril might directly indemnify the insured, is an insurable interest. In section 14, stated an insurable interest in property may consist in an existing interest, inchoate interest founded on an existing interest, and an expectancy coupled with an existing interest that out of which the expectancy arises. And last is the section 15 stated that a carrier or depository of any kind has an insurable interest in a thing held by him as such to the extent of his liability but not to exceed the value thereof. So, an insurable interest is that relationship with a person or thing that will support the insurance of an insurance policy. A person is usually regarded as having an insurable interest in the subject matter insured when he will derive pecuniary benefit or advantage from its preservation or will suffer pecuniary loss or damage from its destruction. So insurable interest in property should exist not only on the date of execution of the contract of insurance, but on the date of the occurrence of the risk insured against. On the other hand, insurable interest in the life and health of a person insured must exist when the insurance takes effect, but need not exist thereafter or when the loss occurs. So moving on, we have the law on about beneficiaries. So in section 18 stated no contract or policy of insurance on property shall be enforceable except for the benefit of some person having an insurable interest in the property insured. And in Section 19, stated an interest in property insured must exist when the insurance takes effect and when the loss occurs, but need not exist in the meantime. An interest in the life or health of a person insured must exist when the insurance takes effect, but need not exist thereafter or when the loss occurs. So, a person cannot lawfully procure insurance in the life of another in whose life he has no insurable interest. Hence, the assured must have an interest to preserve the life to be insured in spite of the insurance. In order that one may have an insurable interest in the life of another, it must be one of those mentioned in Section 10 of the Insurance Code. This holds true where the employer who is the titular or named insured obtains insurance on the life and health of its employees. With respect to insurance on property, it is imperative that the beneficiary is a person having an insurable interest in the property insured. And moving on, we have the law on the fire insurance. So in Section 167 stated that as used in this code, the term fire insurance shall include insurance against loss by fire, lightning, windstorm, tornado, or earthquake, and other allied risks when such risks are covered by extension of fire insurance policies or under separate policies. So, for fire insurance, it is essentially a contract of indemnity. In fire insurance, only a hostile and not a friendly fire is insured against. Under an open policy, the measure of indemnity is the actual loss sustained, and the burden is upon the insured to establish the amount of such loss. Under a valued policy of fire insurance, the valuation in the policy is conclusive between the parties. Next is the war risk insurance. So the law stated that war risk insurance is an insurance covering damages caused by acts of war. It includes coverage for war, hijacking, and related perils. Insurers have intended to withdraw liability coverage for weapons of mass destruction, a subset of war risk insurance. WMD, or the weapons of mass destruction, includes the radioactive contamination or the dirty bombs, electromagnetic pulse devices, and the chemical and biological weapons. So coverage was subsequently provided at full policy limits for passenger liability, but limited to a maximum of $50 million for all third-party injury and property damage. So, some countries, like the United States of America, provide coverage while others do not. The International Air Transport Association, or the IATA, has argued that airlines in countries that do not provide coverage are at a competitive disadvantage. So, under the Federal Aviation Administration program, insurance coverage for passenger and third-party liabilities for U.S. airlines is approximately $0.70 per passenger compared to almost $3 outside of the US. So that's all for the chapter 14. I hope you have learned something. Thank you for listening.